Chosen ones, have you noticed how those who once watched you so closely can no longer find you? Do you feel God's hand guiding you away from their gaze, making you untouchable as you slip from their sight? You have been watched, scrutinized by eyes that sought to limit, to bind you in shadows where your purpose could be extinguished. They encircled you, hoping to weave you into their web, to keep you tethered, but their plans unravel with divine precision. God has issued a command, and the landscape of their vision shifts. You slip from their grasp like vapor dissipating into the boundless sky. Their chains, once heavy, crumble into dust. The paths they knew to find you now collapse into void, and you vanish, not as a fugitive, but as something untouchable, beyond the reach of mortal sight. Their warnings, their whispers, the very words they crafted to bind you are now hollow echoes in the wind. They wanted you caught, your movements plotted and predicted like lines on a map. But the map itself has changed. The ground under their feet has split open, and you, chosen one, glide over unseen territories. They search for footprints, but the earth swallows every step you take. Their eyes, once sharp and cruel, now falter, blinded by a light they can never understand. It is not your disappearance they fear. It is the divine erasure of their power over you. God has moved in ways they cannot comprehend. The unseen hand that guides you bends the very laws of nature around you. It is not that they cannot find you. It is that you now exist in a place they were never allowed to reach. Their plans, meticulously laid out, have been torn asunder by a force far beyond their control. You, once bound to the limits they imposed, are now a storm in the distance, growing in power, yet invisible to those who sought to contain you. Their attempts to trace your movements are futile. The horizon they once watched you from has vanished into the black of night. The roads they once knew have crumbled to dust. They stumble through their own confusion, hands outstretched, grasping for a trace of you that no longer exists. Their minds, once so certain, now spin in the face of their defeat. Their vision is clouded, their ears deafened by the silence of your absence. What they fear most is not your disappearance, but the realization that you were never theirs to hold, never within their grasp to begin with. They will never find you again because you are no longer within their reality. You have slipped through the cracks of their understanding, transcended their reach. Where once they could track you with certainty, now they find only absence, a void where you once stood. They will look for signs, traces, but none will appear. It is not as if you are hiding. You have been taken to a place they cannot fathom, a place that exists beyond the confines of their limited understanding. You have become the whisper in the wind, the reflection in the water that vanishes when they approach. You are not bound by their gaze, nor by the limits of the reality they constructed around you. God's power moves you through dimensions they cannot comprehend, shifting you like a phantom through the barriers they believed were impenetrable. Their attempts to control your destiny have been obliterated. Every wall they built, every door they locked, has been blown open by the force of your ascension. They will never find you because God has removed you from their realm of influence. They are blind now, fumbling in darkness, while you stand in the light of a path only you can walk. They will no longer track your movements because their tools of control have turned to ash in their hands. Their power over you was an illusion, and now, even the illusion has faded. You are beyond them. God has seen to it. You have been freed, not by your own hands, but by divine intervention. They will search, but find only the echoes of a past where they believed they held dominion over you. The truth, now stark and clear before them, is that they never did, and now they never will. You have been moving through a world that feels constricted, as if every step you take is shadowed by eyes you cannot see, yet feel with every breath. The sensation of being bound, restricted, and hemmed in on all sides has weighed on you. You have sensed the invisible walls, the unspoken chains, holding you in place as if some unseen force sought to control your path, to keep you caged within limits that were never yours to bear. You've struggled against it, feeling the weight of every obstacle that suddenly appeared before you, as if someone else had orchestrated the barriers. They have been listening, those who plot against you. You've felt it, how every whisper, every thought shared in trust has been twisted and used as a weapon to block your progress. They have been nearby, unseen but present, like shadows lurking just beyond the edge of your awareness. You've spoken your plans into the air, only to watch them crumble before they could take root. It's as if the moment the words left your mouth, they were seized, stolen by those who would see you remain where you are, unmoving, stagnant. They have heard too much, and in that hearing, they have sought to manipulate the outcome, weaving snares around your efforts. But what they didn't count on, what they could never have understood, is the power moving within you. God has witnessed the theft of your words, the misuse of your plans, and has set in motion a divine intervention that cannot be undone. What once felt like an impenetrable cage is now shattering around you. The bars, so meticulously placed to keep you still, are bending and breaking under the weight of what God is releasing. You are no longer confined by the schemes of others, no longer tangled in the web of their deceit. Their eyes may still seek to watch, but they will find nothing. You will move beyond their reach, like a flame that dances beyond the grasp of the wind, unpredictable, untouchable. They may have heard your plans before, but the ones you now hold in your heart are kept in a place they cannot touch. It is no longer words that carry your intentions, but the unspoken force of divine will pushing you forward. Their ears, so sharp and attentive, are now deaf to the movement that guides you. They will listen and hear only silence. They will wait for your falter, but it will never come. You've been stifled, yes. Your path has been twisted by the hands of those who sought to control what was never theirs to control. But now, the very ground they tried to control is shifting. You are being moved in ways they cannot predict, taken down roads they cannot see. Their knowledge of you, once so precise, has become useless, rendered obsolete by a force that defies understanding. You are becoming invisible to their schemes, not because you have hidden yourself, but because God has removed you from the landscape of their vision. Your current struggles are not a testament to their strength, but a sign that their control is breaking. They have tried to shape your path through manipulation, through whispered lies and stolen truths, but their efforts have only delayed the inevitable. You are not meant to stay bound. Their efforts, once so effective, are now like chains trying to hold back a flood. They cannot see how close you are to breaking free, how near you are to the moment when all their plans unravel, and you rise, untouchable. Attention, chosen one. This is a call like no other. The Obsidian Inner Order, the ultimate ascension nexus for chosen ones, has opened its gates, but only for those who can carry the mantle. Inside, over 400 fierce, committed souls have already taken their places, connecting in ways you'll find nowhere else. And let me be clear, this is not for everyone. Only those with solid mental fortitude, unbreakable character, and razor-sharp discernment need apply. If that's you, then now's the moment to step forward and claim your rightful place. The doors to knowledge are wide open in the Inner Order, granting you access to 3 profound chapters from the modern manifestation mechanics grimoire for chosen ones, each a tool to fortify your journey. Learn to arrange your living space as an abundance magnet, channel basic spellcraft to give your goals physical manifestation, and harness the 7 types of magical forces for your ascent. And we've just launched a full-length, exclusive video special for Star Chamber members only, diving deep into these magical forces. This content is too raw, too unfiltered for any mainstream platform. It's knowledge for chosen ones only, the kind you won't find on YouTube or anywhere else. If you're craving real connection with those who walk the same path, this is literally the only place on the internet where chosen ones gather in true kinship. But be warned, spots in the highly coveted Star Chamber are limited and are disappearing fast. The link to the Inner Order Patreon is in the description. Do you have the grit, the power, and the vision to step up? If so, the time is now. Join us. You have been surrounded by unseen forces, much like Peter confined within the walls of his prison, his every move restricted by guards and iron chains. The weight of these invisible bindings has kept you in place, held back your progress, and silenced the potential that lives within you. Every step you attempted was met with resistance, each moment of movement watched over by those who would see you remain trapped. The walls around you may not be visible, but they have felt as solid and unyielding as stone, built by those who seek to block your way forward. These watchers, like the guards who encircled Peter, have monitored you closely, trying to ensure that you remain bound by limits they set for you. But just as Peter's prison could not withstand the power of divine intervention, so too will your restraints be shattered. God's intervention is already on its way, moving with a force that will render your captors powerless. The chains that bind you, though heavy and restrictive, are no match for the hand of God that now reaches out to you. Just as Peter, who once sat between soldiers awaiting an uncertain fate, saw his chains fall away in an instant, you too will feel the release of every shackle that has held you back. The watchers who have surrounded you will be left bewildered, unable to comprehend how you have slipped from their grasp. The angel that came to Peter in the darkest hour is already moving in your life. This divine force, unstoppable and beyond comprehension, is setting you free from the gaze of those who sought to control you. It isn't just your physical movement that is being restored, but your very soul that is being released from captivity. The watchers, those who have kept their eyes on you, hoping to prevent your breakthrough, are about to be rendered powerless. They will see you no longer, for God is removing you from their sight. They will search for you in the places where they expected you to be confined, only to find nothing but the remnants of the chains they thought would never break. Your current situation may feel as though you are surrounded on all sides, as though every path is blocked and every door is locked. But just as the prison doors opened for Peter, they are opening for you. The watchers, who believed their control was unshakable, will watch in stunned silence as you walk free. The plans they made, the barriers they erected, will crumble in the face of God's intervention. They may have thought they had you cornered, that your destiny was something they could manipulate and control. But they have vastly underestimated the power at work in your life. The angel did not come to Peter with hesitation or uncertainty, and neither is God's intervention in your life one of half measures. It is swift, decisive, and unstoppable. Just as Peter walked past his guards, unnoticed and untouched, you too will pass by those who sought to hold you down. They will look for you, but you will be gone, carried by the hand of God into a place they cannot reach. Their control is an illusion, one that is crumbling before them even now. You have been watched, guarded, and limited, but all of that is coming to an end. The watchers cannot hold what God has destined to be free. Your liberation, like Peter's, will be a moment of divine intervention so powerful that no force on earth will be able to stop it. You will walk out from the confines they built around you, not in secrecy, but in the boldness that comes from knowing that God Himself is leading you. The watchers will be left standing in the ruins of their own plans, unable to grasp how you could have escaped, but it will be too late. Just as Peter did not remain in the prison that sought to hold him, you will not remain in the grip of those who seek to confine you. Their efforts, their plans, their watchful eyes are all rendered meaningless in the presence of God's power. The chains they placed on you will fall to the ground, forgotten. The guards they posted to monitor your every move will find themselves powerless, unable to see or follow where you go next. God's intervention is total, complete, and irreversible. You are being set free, and there is nothing they can do to stop it. You have been the focus of their gaze for far too long, watched by those who seek to control and monitor your every move. They've tried to lock you within the confines of their understanding, believing that by keeping you in their sights, they could limit your progress, dictate your direction. But now, God is moving in ways beyond their comprehension, pulling you from the very fabric of their reality. You are vanishing, not slipping away quietly, but being divinely extracted from the very plane where they once held sway over you. Where they last saw you, there will be nothing left but the faintest memory of your presence. They will search for you, trying to retrace your steps, following the paths they thought you would take. But every trace of you is being erased, your presence lifted out of their reach as if you never stood there at all. They will scour the places where they believed they had you cornered, only to find that the ground beneath their feet has shifted. The world they tried to trap you in is dissolving, while you move through unseen realms, guided by the hand of God. Their radar, once so finely tuned to your movements, is now useless, spinning wildly in the silence left behind. You are not simply becoming invisible. This is not a matter of hiding or retreating into the shadows. This is divine intervention. God is pulling you into a space they cannot perceive, removing you from the map they once held so tightly in their grasp. It is as though a veil has fallen between you and those who once had their eyes fixed on you. They strain to see, to understand, but all they encounter is the emptiness where you once stood. Their efforts to follow, to track, are like trying to hold on to smoke. Everything they reach for dissolves before their hands can close around it. This is no accidental disappearance. The Watchers, those who have tried to bind you with their expectations and keep you tethered to their designs, are facing a divine erasure. God is uprooting you from their field of vision, making it impossible for them to anticipate your next move. They once believed they could predict your every step, that you would always be within their reach. But now they are confronted with the impossible truth. You are no longer bound by their watchful eyes. The horizon they thought they controlled has folded in on itself, taking you far beyond their grasp. They will not find you again because God has placed you in a realm beyond their sight, a realm where their schemes and plans hold no power. They will search, but it will be in vain. They will try to use the tools that once worked so effectively, the strategies that once kept you in place, but these will crumble like sand slipping through their fingers. You have vanished, not as an act of retreat, but as a declaration of God's sovereignty over your life. You have been taken from their world into one where their influence no longer exists. You are no longer bound to the places where you once stood. God is not merely concealing you from the eyes of those who sought to oppress and manipulate your path. He is lifting you beyond their reach, far above the places where their power once reigned. You are being elevated, pulled upward into realms where their influence shatters like glass against a force far greater than any they can wield. Their familiar tricks, their old strategies to block your progress, now fail entirely, for God has removed you from the plane where they held sway. They will try to reach for you, but their hands will grasp at nothing. What they once understood about you, your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, the patterns they believed they could predict, has been rendered irrelevant. You have been pulled beyond their knowledge, their ability to control or influence. They cannot access the heights to which you are now being raised, for God Himself has lifted you to a place where their gaze cannot penetrate. Their eyes, once so fixed on you, now fall short, unable to see where you are or where you are going. God has placed you on a path they will never understand, a path where their familiar spirits, those forces that once sought to bind you, are powerless to follow. This elevation is not gradual. It is swift, like a forceful wind carrying you upward, far beyond the clouds of their schemes. You are being taken to a higher place, a realm where only God's protection surrounds you. His angels have been commanded to take charge over your life, not as passive observers, but as warriors standing guard over every step you take. Their swords gleam with divine fire, creating a barrier that no enemy can cross. The forces that once tracked your movements now find themselves blind and stumbling, unable to follow the light that now shines around you. God's elevation of you is not a simple act of removing you from harm. It is an act of supreme authority, a declaration that those who once opposed you no longer have any hold over you. They cannot block what they cannot find, and now you have been lifted to a place where their paths no longer intersect with yours. The familiar spirits that once circled you like vultures, waiting for your missteps, are now left circling empty ground. Their access has been revoked, their power shattered. God's command is absolute. You are untouchable, unseen, beyond their grasp. This is more than protection. This is divine shielding, a fortress built around you by the very hands of angels. Your enemies, both seen and unseen, will search for a way through, but they will find none. The barriers they once constructed to block your blessings are crumbling, disintegrating in the face of God's intervention. They may try to track you, to trace the path you are on, but their efforts will be met with walls of impenetrable light. God's angels stand as sentinels at every turn, and the enemies who once plotted against you now stand powerless in the shadows, unable to approach the brightness that surrounds you. God is not only lifting you higher, He is ensuring that no weapon formed against you can succeed. The spiritual forces that once blocked your progress are being cut off, their ties to you severed by divine decree. You are being hidden in plain sight, lifted to a place where their eyes cannot see, where their hands cannot reach. This elevation is not temporary. It is a permanent shift, a lifting to a place of divine protection where you will walk in peace, no longer looking over your shoulder, no longer waiting for the next attack. You are being shifted to a place beyond the grasp of those who sought to harm you. God's power is carrying you, not just away from their sight, but to a realm where their influence disintegrates. Their eyes will search for you, but they will find only emptiness, for you have been taken beyond the limits of their reach. Their plans have already crumbled. You are no longer within the bounds of their control, no longer subject to the barriers they attempted to place in your way. God's hand is firmly upon you, not just hiding you, but lifting you to a height where you are untouchable. Every obstacle they crafted is now obsolete. Every strategy they devised is rendered meaningless. You have been removed from their sight by divine decree, and in this new space, you are not just surviving. You are thriving, moving forward on a path they cannot even see, let alone block. This is the moment where everything changes, where their power over you dissolves into nothing. Take comfort in the certainty of your elevation. You are chosen, set apart, and no longer held back by the watchers who once encircled you. This new path is yours alone, shaped by the hand of God, free from interference, free from fear. Now, more than ever, it is time to embrace the truth of who you are and how far you've come. Share your story. Let others see the power of divine intervention, the undeniable evidence that you have been moved, hidden, and elevated beyond what anyone could have imagined. Your victory is not just for you. It is a beacon for others who need to understand that they too can be lifted out of the reach of those who would seek to limit them. Your story is the proof. Tell it. Tell